Okay, so we've got back from Reception Bay picking up those 4V heads for the XA, and I've gone through, finished the brakes on the Transit van. Now we're going to hook into the Sprint and try and get the front shocks and springs in it, rear shocks in it, and we've also got to do a rebuild on the power steering control valve. I've washed all that up, degreased it, it's out there drying at the moment. Now the springs on the front of the Falcon or a Mustang are handed left and right. There's an R and an L part number. There's a couple of millimeters height difference in there. Being left-hand drive, any of the stuff made in Australia, doesn't matter who makes it, us, Kings, whatever, their left and right is going to be different to what's in the US left and right, because we're right-hand drive, and they are a Falcon spring that fit the American Mustangs and American Falcons. So when Dylan fitted it, I didn't have a chance to tell him because I was busy, and he's put the right-hand spring in the left and the left in the right. So I've pulled them out, found some insulators to go on the top because the factory ones were hard plastic, or sorry, they were just old and they crumbled into pieces. So we've got some new top insulators to pop in there. I'll pop them on and I'll get the springs in the right sides, chuck the shocks back in, and then we'll probably move on to doing the control valve so the front end's finished, and then get into the rear shocks. So I'll pop these over here while I do that. I'll show you the spring compressor we're using too. So if you do this stuff and you don't use the right compressors, you're going to end up taking a finger off, taking a head off. It's when you're compressing a spring to get one in and out, it's stored energy, so it's kind of like a bomb ready to go off. So A, you don't want to be anywhere near that when it does go off, and B, don't point it at your face or anything important. But we've got an internal spring compressor that goes through. It's on a thread and 2 steel plates that go in between the coils, and then you just crank it down with the bolt on the top and it holds it, and you can get it out of in there when there's light that you can see. So I'll pop yours up on the stand and we'll get that spring in the car. Okay, so what I've done is pop the coil on the spring seat or spring saddle on the Falcons, and I've expanded a little bit to locate it, and I've now just placed the 3 tower studs on top, and we're going to open it up a little bit more, and the spring pressure is going to hold those 3 tower studs up in when you release the pressure on the spring, until you drop one of the suckers down in the damn spring hole. I'll get a magnet. Okay, so these normally get held up in with a bit of I think the factory had some like insulation, like mastic or something like that, and the later model cars had a reinforced steel plate that went under them, but these early ones didn't. So you just got to make sure you keep locating it and let it up. Ooh, there we go. Is that in place now? Well, I think that's it. Yep. Now if we just get our spring compressor to pop out of the plates. Like that. So that is 1 coil spring in, seated. Our tower studs are there to put our shocky on. Our insulated rubber's down in there, and it's all located. Still got all our fingers. And then once we've done that and put the shock in, we can put our bump stop plate, striker plate back in there. Now to get on the other side and do the same thing again. Okay, we've got the last shock to go in the front now. And then we can put our bump stop striker plates back in. Just got a little bit of pressure on the front suspension to get the spring saddle to line up square so it's easier to reach the bolts, or nuts, sorry. Okay, and the other one. Okay, they're both done. Grab that torch. Make sure everything's seated. That's where we want it. All right. We'll bring it down and start putting the bump stop mounting plates in. Okay, so we've got our springs, shocks, bump stop strike plates, everything all bolted back into the front end, and it's all tight. We'll just have to wait and see what the final ride height is when we put it down and settle it. That spring's a fairly common part number I've used in a lot of 65 Mustangs, that kind of stuff, early Falcons. With a V8, they normally sit pretty good, so hopefully it's the height the guy wants. There is another one that's another two part numbers that go a little bit lower than that, but I think they'll be too low considering we're not touching the rear. He just wants a little bit nose down in the front. So what we've got laid out here is the new parts for the power steering control valve rebuild. We've got a new bushing, our new stud, ball stud that goes into the pitman arm, reaction spring, bumper and cups for the seats, and then we've got seal spreader bushings and the gasket for the end cap on the end of it and the rubber dust boot. This little bag is the bits and pieces for the dust seal and washers and whatnot, and a mounting hardware kit for the power steer ram, where the ram anchors to the chassis rail, and a new gator boot for the ram shaft. So that stuff is for on that part there later on, because that's all buggered up and torn. What we're going to do is get into that unit there. So we've given it a clean up, given it a scrub as much as we could. It's got years and years worth of dirt on there. Now this, when it was in the car, was bound up like that, and you think, yeah, nice and tight, but then when the steering rolls, gets into that point, see if we can see it. So it's really sloppy in there, and yes, they have to have some movement, because if you don't, if that valve is too tight, then you hit a bump, you breathe on the steering wheel. That's where these old ram steers just wander all over the road. So you want a little bit of play, no play in the box preferably, just a little bit of play in that one, but enough to give the ram some sensitivity so it's not going to twitch every time you hit a bump. So pop you guys up here and we'll start getting this thing pulled to pieces. They're fairly straightforward. Normally you don't even have to drop the drag link out of the car, but we had to put an idler arm in there, so we took it out. First things first, we're going to have to disconnect the hoses off the valve. And then we can get into the collar down here and knock the roll pin out and wind the valve off the end of the drag link. So we'll get you in and show you what we've done. Basically all I've done is take that shroud off that should have had a rubber boot on there under that, and disconnected the hoses and flipped the ram over to there out of our way. Now this being a 65 Sprint is actually got a lot of early 64.5 parts in it. Now your 65 Mustang, 66 Mustang, that kind of stuff, that power valve would normally wind off that drag link. This is one piece, and there is nothing you can do to, normally you get in there and you knock a pin off and you undo it and you wind it off, and then that stays in the car. You can build this. We're going to have to go in from this end and this end, undo this, take that valve off, and then disassemble all that, or possibly undo that and then undo that. But yeah, so just that little bit of a difference on the early ones. This is a very early car, so yeah, we'll pop yours up here. I'll take it off time lapse, I'll leave it off time lapse, sorry, and that way we can yeah, work this out together, because this is different. All the other cars I've done have been slightly later, so we'll undo these. What are they? These two 1/2 inch bolts first on the valve. And then we'll see if we can take that valve away, so we can get in and replace the bushing and the stud and the cups in that drag link end. So how a lot of people say, oh, you just buy a whole complete new valve for the Mustangs and whatnot, and it's like that way you got no wear in it. Unfortunately on this model you can't, you have to rebuild the valve. So here's hoping they haven't got any more oddball seals or anything weird in there that are different to the kit we've got. See if we can spread that a bit. Okay, so that's moving. Now we'll take this end cap off. This thing's full of years worth of grease and dirt. There we go. Put them there. And just for, I don't know, safety's sake, in case I forget, I lay stuff out how I pull it off and in order, because it's definitely not something we do a lot of. So there's that one. So now, once this thing stops leaking everywhere, what you can see down in here, the next point, is we're going to have to undo that nut and then take off that bushing, that retaining spring, and then that one, and then that plate should come off and we can get that valve off to then get further in there. Or at least that's the hope. there is a set pressure to do that nut to when we go to put it back together. I think it's something like 120 inch-pounds, and then you back the nut off a quarter of a turn. So again, we lay it all out in the order that it came off of. And then our plate. Just dirty. Doesn't appear to have any water go through it or anything like that, so far so good. Now this should, yep, okay, so there's our pin that's in there that joins the two halves together. Leave that up there. And we pry that a little bit further away. Oop, there we go. So, that pin I was talking about that fell out is that little sucker there. He was down in there. There's a couple of holes that go through there, and then that released this to come further out of the housing there, and then we could pop that seal with, that's when we got the screwdriver in there and gave it a pop. That popped that seal out of there, and then that let that housing slide off the end. Now we're just going to sit that to the side for now. Worry about that after we get this section apart. Wipe off the excess grease. Now now what we have to do is try and get this ball stud out of there. Which, if I remember right, now that that pin is out, we can grab this with a pair of small channel locks. Oh no, there we go. I can wind it out by hand. So where these pistons and everything, all the seals and washers are, this fixed washer here, I'm just grabbing that by hand and winding that out. And that's winding the tension off, and we'll let the guts of this come apart. There we go. So that was that part. Now we can spread the cups in here, which will then let us, come on, get our ball stud into a position where we can get him out. There we go. That's our ball stud out without damaging the housing. That spring was inside the housing, go into there. Now, that entire ball bushing should work its way out of that housing. Unless there's some damage or a burr there, but I don't think there is. Just dirty. And there we go. So in there is our two seats that would have went either side of the ball socket. And that's your brass bush that just sits up in there. And it is just full of junk because that boot was missing apparently for a long time. So I'll turn the camera off, I'll give all this a clean up, and then once it's clean and we can actually show you what's in there, we'll bring it back and let you have a look at what we pulled out of there. Okay, so over here we've got our bushing, ball stud, spring and seats. Didn't bother cleaning them, they're not getting reused. We've got the shaft with the rod and the threaded seat with the washer on it. That's all cleaned up. We need to replace that rubber seal, which that's the replacement one for it. And then we've got our brass bush that should be a nice snug fit up in the housing. We're going to take some ATF and just lube that up a little. And make a messy bench. Okay, so now we're also going to take one of our seats, lube that up a bit, and he's going to go in, maybe. They are very, very snug fit, so you've got to get them straight. And then we're going to get our second seat. So him and some ATF. Get that to kick in there square. Now with that all in there, slide him in the housing. With that like that, we'll take our new ball stud. Once my hands aren't covered in oil. And same deal, ATF on it. Slide the bush back far enough that it lines up the opening. And pop him in there. Pull that back out so it lines up. Our two springs, our two bushes where they need to be to line that up. If I stop moving it. Come on. And then we're going to take our spring and our plunger. Bit of ATF on him. Slide him in there, and then that has to thread back into the end of that threaded bush, and then we've got to line up one of those holes with the slot in the stud, so that way that pin can go through one of those holes into that stud, which locks that shaft once we've got it tightened up down in there. So now we'll just get that valve to come back to the end of the drag link so we can start it. And pull that out slightly. And that new bush, like the old one, has got slots cut in it, and that's where that pin goes through to one of those holes. So move this, try and make less of a mess. Now we'll wind him home, and you'll feel it start to get tight because it's now pressing against that spring. This is where we can grab that. And wind that home till it seats. And then we have to make sure everything's lined up. Maybe not, just for a second. Now we'll start again on that one. See if we can get it tighter. Don't want it too tight or that valve will bind up. So we just go to its seats. And that's it there. And then we have to line up the end of that. That needs to go just a hair more. Pin to go through a bit further. Is that not lining up or something? There we go, the pin floats through the hole freely now, sort of. Yep, that's floating through. And now put that back forward and that pin can't slide out. And that's all held. So for now, that section there is okay. Next we have to get into the inside of this thing. Which that should come up. There's another one of those large seals. There's also a collar that should come up. That sits in. That'll work. Push that backwards and this should come out this way. Like that. And there's our valve with our seal on that end. Yep. And then we have to get the same out the other side. Which hopefully just pushes through like that. And there's our washer. Would have went there. Would have had that in behind it. And that is now an empty control valve that we can clean all this muck out of and clean up, blow out, lube it up and get it ready to put new seals and everything back in the valve and go together. So again, I'll give that a wash up and show you what's come out of there. Okay, so our housing's been washed out and cleaned. All the pieces that have got to go back in it have. And our valve is clean as well. So next, what we're going to do is take the seal for down inside here. And we're going to sit that in. Like that. And then we're going to lube up the spool valve. And make sure we don't score it. Twist as it goes through. And that should pop up inside that seal. Or push the seal out, one or the other. Go. Again in there. These seals are an absolute bugger to get in. Sometimes you can take 11/16 socket, about the right size, give it a push. Now, if I hold the seal there, it's slightly smaller socket. So I'll hold the seal in place and we just pop that valve through. Yeah. There we go. And then we've got our little washer that goes over the top of it and then spreads that seal out. Oh. There we go, did that go too far? There we go, that one's in. On this side, take that washer, seal again, feed it over the valve, slide it down in. ATF all over your hands doesn't help trying to get the damn thing in. And dropping the seal doesn't help either. Go. Do the reverse now. Cool. That plastic insert there. And that's what I remember happening last time. It ends up popping the seals out both ends. This is the annoying bit about it. Trying to get that damn seal to stay in. about, get this one in. And what we'll do is put that other one in last. If I can sit that retainer ring in there, our seal in there, our washer went there, like that. Get it? Nope. Come on. Wash one in first. Then that. Then the seal. That then stops that little washer and everything popping around. Now, clean the oil off my hands on the housing. We've got a gasket to go on this end here. And should be able to slide that sucker on there. Like so. And if what I'm hoping is correct, that'll hold that seal in for us, so we're not fighting both ways and having it pop itself out every time we try and push the outer one in. I'll just seat these lightly. I'm just using it to hold it for the moment. There we go. So they're just seated at the moment. Now, get back to this other seal on this end. Get that valve seat all the way that way. Tell you what, I'm going to get some glasses because I can't see anything. Okay, so what we're going to do is put our end plate the right way around on here, and then we're going to drop our washer on. One of the bushes, spring, the other bush and the other flat washer. Sorry, I'm going to put your collar in there first to go between the two bushes, then your flat washer, and just loosely seat the new lock nut on the end to hold all that. Going to throw these two bolts in here loosely to hold that plate there, stop it bouncing around. Then we're going to get our 1/2 inch and do these first two up tight. And then this one. So they're tight enough. All seated. So now we have to do this up to 100 inch-pounds. Just there, and after you set it to 100 inch-pounds, you want to grab a spanner that you can see through there, and we're going to back it off 1/4 of a turn from 100 inch-pounds. So that's where the slop is there. That's our 1/4 of a turn. No play there, or very little. That's nice and smooth. So now, the last thing we're going to do, take our end cap, pop the O-ring out of that, give that a bit of a quick clean out. And roll it and break it. There we go. Grab our new seal. And pop our O-ring in the end. That doesn't fit real flush, does it? Now, seat these two. They're tight. And that one's good to go. Now we just need to put our dust boot on. Comes with a new retaining plate and a couple of new screws. I'll get a little bit of grease. goes here that's wandering around at the back of the short. Okay. Pop this over there. And then our retaining plate. Well, that one's fitting through there, aren't they? Put our channels, make a bit smaller. There we go. This is not going to reach. Now we're going to make this fit. Friction parts always. Do that. And then you try and squeeze it. Then you might have half a hook. Once we press the rubber, the screw is like 5 mil longer, 2 mil longer even. Have I got a longer screw in the kit? Okay, so everything's back together, and it's going to try and just set it up into there loosely. While it drips water all over it. I'll put that on that. Ah, idiot. Wrong one. This one is right here. And this up in there. Away. So our return line has to be replaced, but I don't have any, so for now, I'm going to put the old one back on, and we'll get some during the week, because I want to flush the system through anyway, because I want to run Ford type power steer fluid through it, not the ATF that was in it. So if I change it a couple of times, it should be good. This one went there somehow. Gonna have to undo that return line. That way. Loosen that off. So that one can get out of there. Well, pretty sure that should be a little bit further out. And this is normal down there. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay, so that new strap for that dust boot, that one. The one that we couldn't tighten up before. So I just get that to option. Everything's oily. I can't see. Started, and then we'll influence the pipes to go where we want them. That's seated. And then our tire end has to go up in there. That's got to go to there. I'm assuming they went under the tie rod end because they won't clip over. You off for a second. There, like that. Let's see if the tire rod handle here, if you put it in there. Okay, pipe's clear, tire rod clears, exhaust clears. That'll do. That'll loosely start that. Cut. And our ring. Goes in there. Like that. I'm assuming that's what this hardware is for. And that'll do for now. Alright, I want to wash this ATF off my hands because it's feral, and then we'll double check everything. Right, so we've got all the drag hooked back up and the hoses hooked up. Got the coil in the pump and we've locked it a couple of times to bleed the air out. So now we're going to check our cold start and pressure test the system. Cold start's okay. That's been sitting since Friday afternoon. Doesn't appear to be leaking any oil anywhere, and the pump is working. I think we've got it. There's no leaks there. There's a little bit from the pump, but we're going to give it a wash down on Monday after the after we finish the last couple of things, and then we'll recheck it again. But that's the return line there that I want to put a new piece in. Up there on the base of the pump, there's a little bit of a drip up there, which could be old residue. We'll clean it up. But our valve is spotless, and the hose is coming out of it nice and dry. Our ram is dry, new idler arms on, new springs and shocks are in, brakes are all adjusted and bled. We've just got to, if you look up there, that's where our bump stops should clip into. So what we're going to do with those, both sides have got a little bit of rust in them. What we've got over here is a couple of plates that Liam's been cutting out and then filing them to shape. So the new bump stops are going to clip into that, but that is going to be where are we? Welded up into there. So once we've got it all prepped and everything, we'll weld those two plates in. We'll put a bit of weld through primer on both sides, clip the bump stops in, and that little repair there is done as well. So for now, the only other thing is we've got to put some shocks in the back of it, but I need someone to get in the boot to undo it while we hold the shock underneath. So for now, we're going to leave this one there. We'll finish that up through the week and get it wheel aligned, and we'll make sure those front springs are at the height we want. When that's all done, we'll show you what it's like when it's all finished up. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for coming back, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.